Hello. Right. Okay, if you can hear me, just you can comment if you have your own YouTube account. So just let me know in the comments if you can clear, if the audio is clear, right? Okay, so we're taking a look at both plays, The Bear and The Twilight of a Crane. I'm just checking if there's any more students joining in. And I'm also a little bit concerned about the neighbors. Hopefully the sound is not. All right, so let's take a look at The Bear first, the drama The Bear by Anton Chekhov. So we need a little bit of history to understand what he is writing about, right? So to understand where he's coming from. So if you take a look at Russia was going through certain changes in the social system itself, right? So there were certain social structures that were changing, certain dynamics in society that were changing, right? So let's take a little bit about the first thing I want to mention is that the day is very important, right? So we are basically the setting of the play. It's the day of the 7th anniversary of Nicholai's death, who is, as you know, Popova's husband, right? Late husband. So it's very important to understand that it's a significant day because it's his anniversary, the death anniversary, 7-month death anniversary. So it's not just another day where she's mourning and wearing widow's weeds, but it's a specific day. So because of that, the actions that Smirnov takes, his rudeness makes it even worse because it's actually the anniversary of the death. So keep that in mind. Keeping that in mind, also keep in mind that, so I have in the description, I have put up the plan for my lesson today for the bear, okay, for the workshop. So first I want to take a look at the 3 characters in their situations. Okay. In their situations currently as characters in the play. So the first character will be Popova. So the basic understanding we have about Popova is the fact that she was married to Nicholai, who was a rather abusive husband, and she did not get the attention and the affection that she wanted in that marriage. So Popova is in mourning. The story, the play begins with Popova gazing into a photograph of Nicholai, right? So it's about that attachment, even though he has passed away, still that attachment is very strong, right? So she's unable to move on from her identity as Nicholai's wife, right? So she understands herself as Nicholai's wife. That's Popova. But also, another important thing about Popova is that we get to know that she owns land. She inherited land from her parents, because at one point in the play she says that Nicholai wasted all her money. So what we realize is that Nicholai wasted her money. So Nicholai was not necessarily an aristocratic person. He did not have his own wealth, but it is the woman who brought the wealth into the marriage. It's the woman, Popova, or the wife, that had the means, had the wealth. But when she came into the marriage, Nicholai ended up wasting that money, right? So what something that we need to understand about Popova is that she was from a well-to-do family, and what we call the land-owning gentry at that point at that's in Russia, right? So if you think about Russia a little bit, sorry about that. I need my notes. Okay, so yeah, just let you take a look at it. Divided the whole play. If you take a look at the bear, the play, you can, to make it easier for you to remember it, you can divide it into about 5 parts. Okay, I will speak to that in a little bit, but let's just take a look at the background in a little more detail, right? So as I was saying, Popova is a landowning woman, and her husband is the one who continued to waste her money. And then we have Smirnov, an interesting character. Once again, he's from the landowning gentry as well. So we have people who are the landowning gentry who are of a higher social status than the peasants. So it's and what's interesting is that Anton Chekhov was very good at portraying the flaws of people, the idiosyncrasies, the foibles, especially of the middle class or the bourgeois, right? That means the middle class. So he, you spell bourgeois, I will send it to the, yeah, that's how we spell bourgeois. That's the middle class. So Anton Chekhov uses satire and humor to expose the hypocrisies of the bourgeois or the middle class people. And that's exactly what he does when we talk about these two characters, Popova and Smirnov, right? So we have those two characters, and then we have Nicholai, who is the husband to the late husband of Popova, right? So that's basically, those are the three main characters. Other than that, another important character is the horse. If you know the name of the horse, the name by the name Toby, right? So Toby the horse is also an important character. So the first part of the bear, right? I would like to call it the exposition. Sorry, I would like to call it the widow's weeds. Okay. So if you remember these parts of the play, you will easily remember the whole play. And if you remember these images, it will be easier for you to remind yourself of it when you write the exam. So, widow's weeds. Why do I call it the first part the widow's weeds? Because Popova is wearing widow's weeds. And that's a term that's used commonly in especially 18th, 19th century for a woman who is wearing black to mourn her husband, right? So how long has she been wearing this? She has been wearing it for 7 months, according to her. Luka says it seems like you've been wearing this for more than an year. So imagine every day on a daily basis, Monday to Sunday, she's wearing black to mourn her husband. So you might be wondering, why would she mourn someone so terrible like Nicholai? We will get to that as well. So this is the situation where she is unable to let go of her wife. And at the mention of Toby, so Luka mentions Toby, the horse. And Luka basically asks her to go out and meet some new friends and have some fun, right? You're still young and beautiful, so why don't you go out and make yourself available, right, for other men? But she says, at the mention of Toby, she breaks down emotionally and she goes into this reverie, and she reminisces nostalgically about her late husband. So here what we understand is that Toby is an important character. Okay, Toby is a link. Hold on, sorry. Yeah, Toby is a link to the dead husband. So Toby is the horse, as we know. So it basically suggests that hold on. So Toby has sentimental value because it's the memory that links her to the husband. Okay, so for Popova, Toby reminds of the husband. It's basically a part of her identity, especially for a woman in Russia in the 1800s. It's very important. The marriage is something that's really important because for them, they did not have economical or financial independence. They didn't have the means for an education. They didn't have the means for social security. The only way that women gained social security is through marriage. So their lives were always right governed by their connection with to a man. So, in a patriarchal society where man had the power and the privileges because of the fact that there are men, women did not have their independence. So, for them to be socially and economically independent, the way, like the survival method was basically marriage, right? So, if you don't get married, you probably will have to stay with your parents, you'll probably have to be dependent upon your sister's husband or something like that. Why? Because they were not given access to a formal education. I mean, nowadays, there is a lot of talk of equality and society's yeah, she was the first female woman in Sri Lanka to hold such a high position. So it has taken us, till the 21st century, right, to come to terms with the fact that men and women are equal in their different strengths and weaknesses. But in Russia in the 1800s, the late 19th century, women were not allowed a formal education. So imagine if you did not have a formal education, what will you miss? How will you get a job? So there were no job opportunities that were given, that were available for women because they did not get any education, right? All the education that they received was at home. But something started to change in Russia, in their society, in the late 1800s. And this is what Smirnov calls the emancipation, right? The emancipation. So there were two types of emancipations, or two pivotal moments that we need to address in the drama. The first one is the abolition of serfdom that happened in 1861. So you need to understand the social structure or the economical structure in Russia at the given time in the 1800s. They had a system where the nobles, the aristocracy, the people who owned the land, these were people who were basically in some sort of way they were connected to the nobility, right? The kings and the queens. So through those connections, because they were in that bloodline, through inheritance, right, by royal or whatever birth, they had they owned land. So the people who owned the land would lend it to peasants, right? The peasants, the common people. So the commoners would work in the landowner's land, and what they would do is they would give about half of their work, the labor, the fruit of their labor, as rent. So as a payment for the land, they would have to provide, the peasants, the commoners, would have to provide about half of their labor to the landowners. So it's a very unfair situation if you really think about it, because I mean, it's quite obvious, right? Because they just if you own land, people basically work for you and they give the money, right? So you don't have to pay them anything. They pay you for lending out the land. So it was such a land ownership was such a debatable topic at that point. But in the 1860, after 1861, serfdom was cancelled. So that um, the fact that they had to pay rent for using that land was abolished, and so that changed a lot. It changed the economical system to such an extent that people who were owning land had to sometimes sell their land, sometimes they went bankrupt. And when we come to the play that's in question, The Bear, we understand that even in this play, the two characters are basically going bankrupt, right? We have Popova on one hand, who's in debt, and then we have Smirnov on the other hand, who is also in debt, who is struggling to pay the interest for the mortgage, and he's about to lose his estate, right? So this is the kind of atmosphere that, or the setting that the story is written in, um, and that's when we find Toby, right? And Toby, the link to the dead husband. So the men in their lives. So self-identity, she identifies herself as Nicholai's wife. Okay, so because she was dependent upon that marriage. So after the death of the husband, what's expected of a woman in Russia is something very important, right? So especially in a patriarchal society, what is requested or what is expected of women is that they have to be polite, they have to be decent, they have to be really, like the angel in the house. Okay, that is a really important concept, because in Victorian England, this concept of the angel in the house was quite popular, and there's a poem about it which I would like to share here. So just wait, let me send you the link to that poem, and then I'm going to read it out to you so that you have an understanding of the role that is expected of why Popova herself is still in mourning. Why isn't she able to move out of this idea of this idea of being a loyal and a faithful wife? Because she's dead anyway. I mean, the husband is dead. He's been dead for 7 months. So why isn't she moving out? I hope you do, right? Hopefully. Okay, until it loads, let me move on. When are there, and direction here, right? The stage direction is that. So that part is important because it shows you her real intentions or what she's thinking of it. And she wants to start a new life. She wants to start afresh. But the problem is that she wants to also preserve that image of a faithful wife, because the society expects that from her. Because as a patriarchal, the patriarchal nation, she is expected to be such a woman. She's expected to be obedient or be docile. She's expected to be faithful to the husband even after the death, right? But yeah, so of these things, but we understand that she says it with determination, meaning that she wants to be available to other people, but this whole certain way does not allow her to go beyond the memory of her husband. So she's kind of caged in this whole memory of the husband, right? And we see how she is trying to please the ghost of the husband. Okay, so trying to please a ghost. It tells you a little bit about how she's trapped in this memory of the husband, and she's unable to move beyond that. Okay, where she talks about an unfaithful her husband is. So even though he was such a person, she still wants to hold on to him. So that's a question that we need to answer, and it is because she wants to portray an image of a woman who is polite, who is docile, who is decent, and who is basically conforming to the expectations of society, right? And think about the fact that she is basically trying to prove herself to a ghost. So it's almost like a ghost story, right? It's as if the ghost of the husband is watching her every move. So it's like this policing. It's like like if you know, if you read the 1984, the novel written by George Orwell, he talks about the big brother who always watches everything that everyone does, right? So if you read it, you'll understand how it's a dystopian story about how surveillance is really destroying the lives of people. Okay, whatever you do, the artificial and play. So this is the first where she's in mourning, wearing widows. Then we move on to the second part where we have the entrance. Enter in. We understand that he obviously speaks in a very irrational, unreasonable manner. He enters. He speaks to Luka. He calls him an ass. That is a donkey, right? That means a donkey. He calls him an ass, and he also calls him a fool. So basically, the way that he treats the inferior to him is very harsh, and he does not show any respect. So there is a double standard about how he treats people, right, in different social statuses. And then he introduces himself as a landowning gentleman. Okay, that is a very important point because, as we talked about it, the people anxious aristocrats because, and even Smirnov is in this anxiety, and he's trying to maintain his image as an aristocrat, even though he's unable to pay the mortgage, even though he is unable to even dress up properly when he's coming to her place right now. His attire is it's not becoming of an aristocrat, right? It's not appropriate. It does not reflect the wealth of an aristocrat, what he wears and his situation. So what we understand is the aristocracy is falling. This is the descent of aristocracy. That is what Anton Chekhov writes about. In another of his plays called The Cherry Orchard, you might have heard about it. It's the story of how this cherry orchard, where which used to be um, owned by the aristocratic people, the wealth, but still they try to keep up their appearances and their lifestyles, the luxurious lifestyle, because they don't have the wealth that they used to have. But still they try to emulate the lifestyle they used to have when they had that wealth. But now they don't have that wealth, but still they try to live in that way. So what happens is it's not affordable, it's not sustainable, and they basically go into ruin. And in the cherry orchard, what happens is a serf who used to work in their own land ends up buying it from them. So it's basically, again, the descent of the aristocracy and the ascent of the serfs in one way, or the changing dynamics, right? The changing socio-economics in 18th century, or sorry, 19th century Russia. Okay, so he introduces himself as a gentleman, a landowning gentleman, and then he goes on to talk about how he needs this much 1,200 rubles for the mortgage that the husband has to pay. The husband owed him money. So, fact that she does not at this moment, I do not have the money. But if he was in debt to you, I will pay you the money. Most definitely, I will pay you the money. That's what she says. I shall certainly pay you, right? Those are the exact words she uses. But she also says that as of now, as of today, right now, I won't be able to pay you because my steward is bringing the money, bringing the cash in day after tomorrow. So that is the explanation he gives. So this is very important, okay? Because this is the point at which he begins to work himself up to this rage, and his logic, his explanation for this, his justification for becoming so angry is completely um, mismatched. An important point about why idiocy, even right, or the hypocrisy or the idiosyncrasies of people. Okay, let me just give me a second to open up the document because it's still not open. I'm trying to figure it out. Hold on. So when the woman says, Popova says, I'm sorry, I don't have the money right now, but I will pay you the money as soon as I get it. He goes into a rampage because she also says it's the seventh month anniversary of my late husband, and I'm not in a state of mind to discuss these matters. But as the audience, right, you understand, and I understand that if she doesn't have money, how is she supposed to pay this, right? How is she supposed to find the money? Is it it's not a practical thing. But the impracticality or the glaring idiocy of Smirnov is that he latches on to what she hears. He has a state of mind point, goes on to huge scene about not having. So when you think about it, it's very unreasonable of his logic. He uses his emotions, right? And he is always ready to be provoked. So the important point about him is desktop should be somewhere here. Oops, look, it's not there. No, I can't find it. Why is it always that when you're in a rush that you can't find it? Then he also uses language that is very boorish. And another point about his behavior as someone who is very ill-mannered or bad-tempered, because one of the questions that you receive in the paper is describe the relevance of the title and how it kind of portrays the person, right? So how is it relevant? So when you think of a bear, think about qualities of a bear. A bear is easily provoked, right? If you poke a bear with a stick, I mean, you don't even have to poke a bear. You just throw a stone that will fall close to him. He will probably suddenly stick. I mean, you don't even have to poke a bear. You just throw a stone that will fall close to him. He will probably suddenly that will fall close to him. He will probably suddenly he's easy to provoke, and he's governed by his emotions. He doesn't use his brains. He's mostly governed by his emotions, what he feels. He feels angry, he acts on it. He breaks two chairs, right? Keep that in mind. He breaks two chairs. That's a really important image and a point that you can write in your answer. So those are some of the things that show that he's boorish, ill-mannered, just like a bear. He's very rough around the edges. Okay, he's not gentle at all. So really important about the names that are given in the play. Smirnov, what does Smirnov means is one of the important questions to address. What does it mean? What does his name mean? Smirnov. So if you take a look at the name, just Google it up and check. It means gentle, still, and peaceful. So here we have a person who is tells you that this is person who represents Russia or Russian men in general, or at least the aristocratic Russian men, right, in general, and whose name means that they are calm, peaceful, and still. But he's given a different name in the play. What is that? It's the bear. So, and the name given to the writer creates through the names, okay, right? And then part three of this play is where they enter into Popova leaves, and then we have Smirnov who asks for a bottle of or a glass of vodka. So this the aristocratic lifestyle, the lavish lifestyle, which they cannot afford anymore, but still they try to remain in their wealth, in their lifestyle of luxury and comfort. So he has a headache, and it's probably in the afternoon, and he asks for a vodka. Okay, so that tells you about an extreme version or an extreme way that he's trying to project himself or his habit thing, right? So it's important that image of drinking vodka at that point is an important image, right? And after that, he goes into one of his temper tantrums. He goes on talking about how many people owe money to him, right? And he goes on listing down these people, and he speaks about how he almost threw the temper tantrums that he has, and the fact that he's more controlled by his emotions. He does not know how to regulate his emotions. He's unable to think logically, right? He's unable to temper down his emotions and think logically. So the important point is that these are all signs of maturity. Okay, so if you're a mature person, you understand that if you feel like throwing a temper tantrum, if you're mature enough, you will think about it a little bit before acting. before doing something, before breaking the chairs around your house. If you have that maturity, you will control your emotions without letting your emotions control you. Okay, so that's something that a lot of people do sometimes. I mean, I'm talking to myself also when I talk about this, because I mean, all of us have at some point, all of us have moments where our emotions get the best of us, right? So we feel, maybe fall desperately in love and try to do things that are stupid. Okay, maybe singing a song to someone, or I don't know, we do stupid things when we are deeply emotional about something. When you're really angry, you would probably throw the phone at someone's face or something. Hopefully you don't do that, but those things tend to happen sometimes. But as we grow older, as we grow more mature in our character, we tend to control our emotions better. At least it's how it should be, right? But when we talk about this person, Smirnov, he is completely unable to do so. So it shows us a lack of maturity in them, and how childish or petulant this person is, right? So he goes around breaking chairs, he goes around talking trash, and even to the lady, the second scene where they talk about, the rubles and the debt, he tells her, the devil take you or something. So he swears at the lady as well. And now it's very important, because speaking to a lady like that, speaking to a lady in that fashion is very aristocratic setting. There is a way that you converse. There is a way that you dress up. I mean, you wear your top hat, you take your cane and the waistcoats, and there are, like you say, dressed up to the nines. So there are layers and layers of clothing. So there is a way that they did things. So even the manner that you speak to a woman was also socially kind of codified. There is a way that you talk to a woman. You go in and you kiss her hand. You kind of, bend down and kiss her hand, and that's a sign of respect. But here we understand that she doesn't give her hand. Popova doesn't give Smirnov her hand. What does that suggest? It suggests that he is not welcome here because she's in mourning, and he barges in without her will. So she does not accept him in that way. That is why she does not give her hand, and that's why the stage directions suggest that. So keep that in mind as well, right? Those are little things that kind of add up to the whole story. So as I said, there's a way that you talk to a woman, and he does not adhere to these gentlemanly qualities, right? We talked about Richard Corey, how he speaks in a certain manner, right? He speaks, and his upbringing, he's schooled in every grace. So it's very applicable to Smirnov as well. But the fact is that he doesn't show or display these genteel qualities. In fact, he shows the fact that he is not refined, he is not civil or cultured as he um, proclaims himself to be. But he says that he's a gentleman, and he says that he knows how to deal with women, to speak to women, but he swears at women. He wants to go to fights, etc., etc. But yeah, at one point that it comes out, so I named it, mind your language. He doesn't know how to mind his language. So one point it comes out is where they talk about the rubles, the debt, and he says, "Go to the devil," right, or something like that, of that sort. Uh, Let me check what he says exactly. What the devil? Yeah. Okay. What the devil? That's what he says. So it shows you that he is not in control of his words or his emotions, and he does not know how to behave in front of a woman, especially in the way that they were supposed to in the 1800s, right, in Russia. So he drinks vodka and he has temper tantrums. So these are the qualities of the boorish qualities, or the qualities of a bear, as we understand him to be. right? So he's not governed by intellect, he's more governed by emotion. He does not treat women in the way that they're supposed to. He treats women, even women, he treats really rashly and bad manneredly, and he runs his mouth and says curse words, etc., etc. So those are some of the things that makes you call him a bear. And another point is the fact that he likes to flex. Okay, I mean, boys start going to gyms and they begin to flex a little bit from here and there once in a while, right? So it's to show their authority, to show what they have, right? Why do you flex? If I ask the boys, why do you flex, right? It's to show off. You want to show off your muscles, your impressive physique, etc., 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 right? It's basically showing off what you have. Now, when it comes to Smirnov, he himself flexes a little bit in a way because we know that he does not have the money to pay the interest in his mortgage, but he has enough money to do what? To pay or to give out loans. So he gives out loans very carelessly, right? So I like to call him Mr. Lend a lot because he lends a lot. Okay, so he gives without understanding the consequence. It's as if he wants to show these people who ask him money that he has that money, he has that wealth. He doesn't want to tell them, okay, I can't afford to give you money right now, because he has given money to so many people. Okay, and he is in debt himself. So giving money to another person is an act of what? It's an act of authority. It's an act of superiority, right? If you own money, you can lend money to people. That's what he does. So without saying no, I am not in a position to do so, he ends up lending money to people, and he ends up in debt himself. So this is the typical mentality of the aristocrats. As I said, they are in descent, so their wealth is basically disappearing rapidly, but they are trying to still hold on to the image of an aristocrat. Think about it. If you had everything, if you had a lot of money, if you had a lot of wealth, and you used to live in luxury and comfort, you get used to that lifestyle. But when everything is taken away from you, how do you adjust to the new normal? How do you adjust to not having the best luxuries in life, right? So if you were used to drinking Nescafe, for example, how can you go back to Harishchandra, the coffee, right? So it's not easy. Even for me, since I'm used to drinking Nescafe, it's difficult to move to Harishchandra coffee. Okay, I mean, it's just a simple example, but it's a whole lifestyle that they have to change because of the changing dynamics of society. So, as I said, aristocracy is falling, their wealth is disappearing, but still they cannot move or adjust to adjust with the wealth that's left for them, but they still try to live like aristocrats and hold on to an image, right? I mean, no one wants to go around saying, okay, I'm losing my wealth, I don't have money anymore. You don't want to profess or like proclaim the fact that you're becoming poorer and poorer. So Smirnov doesn't do that. So we understand that he has lent money to these people without saying no, because he wanted to maintain that image of an aristocrat, right? So keep that in mind, because this is a very important point that that the playwright criticizes in his plays. Even in the Cherry Orchard, he does the same thing. Even in the Bear, he does the same thing. He criticizes the aristocratic, the middle class, especially the bourgeois people, of not understanding the living conditions, the changes, and he criticizes the idea of being the aristocrats, right? So that is why he lends a lot of money to people, and then he ends up uh, losing his estate, right? That's what's going to happen to him. So he has this monologue about the people that he lent money to and all of that. And then we come into the next part of the play. Popova comes to the scene and talks about, can you please stop talking so loudly, because I'm not accustomed to the masculine voice, right? So, and I hate it when you make a huge scene at my house. Can you please leave? So she's very calm. She's very decent. Preserves that image of a dutiful wife. So do you understand what's happening? She's pissed off as hell. She's mad at him. She wants to basically throw him out of the house, but she does not do that. She does not go. She does not break away from the kind of woman that society expects her to be, right? So what's important to understand is that Russia at this point is at a transitioning period. Even for women, I talked about how the economics are transitioning. It's changing from the aristocracy to a more democratic, to a more open kind of economic system, where the aristocrats are no longer in power. They are no longer in wealth. But also, when it came to women, there is a transition. More jobs and more educational opportunities Russia, which he talks about. And here we understand that Popova is not trying to portray that the new brand of woman, right, who's rebellious or who is more independent. We understand that Popova is trying to portray or preserve the image of a conventional and a traditional, right? So which is why she is very polite, she's decent, she does not shout at him even when he is screaming, and even he is very unreasonable. She maintains her figure, her image of being a traditional, conventional woman. She maintains that dutiful quality, right? That dutiful, the decency, etc., etc., right? Okay, I'm just having some interference here. Sorry. Okay. Uh, so do you understand? I hope you understand the fact that she's expected to behave in this way, and she's preserving an image, like being so mournful about the husband and trying to be dutiful about everything she does. So she's portraying that image, and she comes in and says, "Please, would you leave? Please, I'm not accustomed to shouting or the masculine voice, so I don't want you around the house." That's what she basically says. And he goes into a temper tantrum once again. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, 1 minute. I'm going to find the PDF because it's just lost. So hold on a second. Um, okay. Hopefully it's in this. So did you guys watch the election as well? Trump is no longer the president of the United States of America. Just give me a minute until I open up the PDF, right? Because it's just crashed. Can't find it. Give me a moment. Thank you. Scheiße. I can't find it here either. Give me a moment.